strategies. Welcome aboard. Happy to have you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment? I didn't
No.
get a chance to look out there. Okay. Minutes are not available for approval at this time, but as always, you can find the last meeting on YouTube. The link is located here in the agenda. Yep.
So I just wanted to make it clear that the minutes, we had other things that were a little bit of a priority, so we were making sure that we had people that got paid and that we were actually hiring people. So those are all some of the duties that have been falling through the cracks in regards to some folks that were out for COVID. We had some other folks leaving us, and so Penny Garding has been doing a great job of doing everything that you can possibly imagine. And one of the things that she does, though, is also doing the minutes. And so I asked her to make sure that the other things are taken care of first as a priority. Now that we have a front desk attendant, Jackie is here. She was working over at Sim Golf Course. She is starting to work on the minutes and to catch up on all the minutes. So I just wanted you guys to be aware that it wasn't that we were ignoring not doing the minutes. That wasn't because we were doing it on purpose or one reason or another. It was simply because we have too many tasks to do, and really making sure that we get people paid and people hired was going to get us a lot further than making sure we put time aside for the minutes. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of the situation.
Understood.
And Penny's awesome.
We know. All right, board elections. I want to thank everybody for putting up with me for the last couple of years. I think it's time for me to hand the reins to somebody else, though. I've got a day job that needs my attention sometimes, but forgive me, we do these once a year, so I can't remember how we did it last year. I think we might have been on COVID protocol on Teams last year, so if I remember correctly, do we all write down a name, or is there anybody that would like to throw their name in the hat for?
If you have volunteers or somebody that's interested, we would need a motion on.
Well, I wasn't prepared to look up election stuff, but let me check on that real quick.
Alejo. Not me. I already took
I'd
my
like
name
to
out.
make a nomination. Alejo.
Alejo has a good excuse.
I have a good excuse.
Better be you're having a baby or
I
something.
am. Oh, I'm not. My wife is. That'd be a really good excuse. Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I don't know how much time that takes, just figuring it out.
It takes a lot.
Like 18 years.
And just on that real quick, so normally, elections will happen in the June meeting. I wasn't here last year, but presumably that was a bit more digital than normal. It doesn't need to be a motion. It will be kind of an agenda section item, however we want to put it. A lot of times there's a slate of people. That's what the bylaws talk about anyway, but it kind of seems like if we just have some folks that are available to run at the positions and it's clear on the agenda that that's what's happening, that's all that really needs to go down for that.
Do I hear any volunteers for president/chairman?
So, Chris. It's going to be you, Alejo. Shoot. Okay.
There you go.
To make a okay. What do you want just an email to Eddie, or how do we want to put the slate together?
Well, okay, so, I mean, normally, or at least what the bylaws lay out, is in April, so a meeting that's passed already.
Whoops.
And we're trying to fill spots at the same time too. So it's kind of like what we have in the bylaws, which is more of an ideal situation, right? And then otherwise, it's kind of, I think we need to have people that would run for the positions present that at least at the June meeting.
Cool.
It doesn't need to be done before. If you'd like, and the worry then is if we're kind of conducting or sharing business, then it kind of becomes a meeting depending on how many people are on the email. So I'd recommend maybe just kind of getting our lists and presenting that at the June meeting. And just again, making sure we have space in the agenda for that. And it doesn't need to be, since we don't have a nominating committee per se, and we've been filling spots as we go too. I think just kind of names for people that would be able to be voted for each of the positions that we have openings for. If that makes sense. But trying to, be a bit flexible since that's what we need to do at the same time.
When you get a chance.
Do you want to handle that?
Okay.
I introduced her. Go for it. We've we've already introduced our new park board member, Lucia, but if you would like to say a few words.
Okay, well, this is off topic, I guess. We wrap up the,
Yeah, if we're gonna decide in June, then I'll just continue to run the meeting and,
What are the three roles? President, vice president, secretary, right?
correct, yeah,
No, it's president, vice president, second vice president.
Second vice
Yeah.
president.
okay.
I don't think that we've had a secretary.
I don't believe so either.
no, you're right.
At least not provided for you.
I think,
Just so we know
Three
what we're
positions, right?
signed up for.
Yeah,
and I believe
Yeah, just
Tori
you as
was
the
in the
clerk.
first vice president position,
I
and
think I
Alejo
was
was in
second.
the second vice
Yeah.
president.
I can stay in the second. That's great.
You think so?
I'll fall off. It's cool too. I don't need it.
okay,
So are
So
you
we'll-
gonna
we'll-
email
So next-
nominations to me?
Yeah, I think so, if that works for
Yeah.
you. Okay, yeah, just someone in part.
Yeah, so for
Great,
next
thank
month,
you.
if everybody would send in their nominations, and we'll bring it to next board meeting, and you guys vote.
Cool.
okay, excellent. Take it away,
So
sir.
you did introduce her, but she didn't get a chance to say anything about herself.
I'm sorry, Lucia.
I thought it'd be important for her to, I got a chance to get to know her last week. So she's a very nice lady.
I don't really know what's worth sharing, I guess. My name is Lucia Sherman. I don't really know. What,
So
I work for Security First Title. Unfortunately, I am not able to work right now because I was in a motorcycle wreck in September, and so I've had to do some reconstruction of my face, and I have a lot of double vision. So if you see me pull away towards someone, it's just so I can see them better. I have 2 dogs, 2 Frenchies. They're my world. They're fun. I don't really know what else is worth.
So you talked a little bit about why you wanted to be on the park board.
Well, yes. I am just a fan of any and everything outside. I love being outside. And I live in Delana, so by the Riverside area, go out down there a lot and make our way to the keeper and stuff like that. So I am excited about all of the changes that the city has made towards, getting the community out. Master Park, we talked about that one a lot. Absolutely love it there. All the pop-up parks and things like that. I love seeing the community starting to come together, do a lot more activities together, kind of get more involved. And so I'm really excited to be a part of that and to just kind of see everything grow even more.
Excellent. We are dog friendly up here on the park board, so.
So Mr. Palmer, you're the oldest board member.
Longest tenure.
Longest serving, right?
You're the tenured.
Dang, man, that is me. So what's your point?
You're the dean of the park board, like you're the ranking.
Aren't I lucky? Yep, I am. I got a year and a half left. Then you'll be finding my replacement. Coming in at the right time.
All right.
Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Yeah,
From
welcome.
all the guys.
Let's move forward to the Henry Park easement with Mr. Philbrook.
Well, I sent a picture to Troy, but it may not have got to you.
I don't know that did you send me the picture?
Me?
I didn't This computer does not like me today. Sorry about that, John.
This is a real quick item. The city has a water line project that they're doing through the neighborhood around Henry Park. And because of the way the park is platted, there's zero right-of-way between the paving and the park property line. So what the city's looking for is just a simple water line easement over the south 5 foot of the park to allow the water line to run through and connect to the system. The line's gonna be bored, so there'll be no cuts, no impact on trees. It's inside of the tree line. And just bringing it here to get permission because the property is owned by the Board of Park Commissioners.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Philbrook?
It's not impacting the footprint of the park?
No, it's underground. You can't see it. It's away from the trees, so.
You need a motion?
Yeah, I would imagine, yes.
Yeah.
What district is this in?
I think it's Henry Park is at, I think it's in 3, but that's just winging it.
Between Lulu and, what's that, what are the streets, Lulu and what?
It's in District 3. Down there on Lulu, Ellis.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that'd be south side, that'd be Phil's district. I have a quick question, I mean, just while there is being, I mean, is there any other, just thinking about, I don't know about this park in particular, I can't say that I remember going down there. Is there any other, while there's construction taking place, is there any down the road needs that this park has been waiting on that could be considered as well? Just figured I might as well ask since we're discussing tearing up anything in the area.
Well, there's no tearing up, it's bored.
Oh.
It's all board.
There's no
Oh,
trench.
excuse me, so it's all underground, excuse me. Well, then never mind, I take
Yeah,
back that question,
they're
sorry.
just gonna
I
go
got
from
you.
point A to point B, bore pits.
Understood.
And the park is 270 foot by 300 foot, so it was one I was not familiar with till this popped up either. It's a very, very small platted area.
A pocket park.
It may be a vest pocket even. So,
Coin pocket.
We don't have anything that is scheduled for
Gotcha.
updates or any additions to this park anytime soon, and staff looked at this and staff is supportive.
Is Phil not on the line?
I think he is. I'm not sure if we're able to hear him or not. Phil, are you with us? And do you want to make this motion since it falls in your district? All right. I would move to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Phil just texted me. He said he's going to try to log off and log back in. So. Delano Greenway. Mr. Best.
Thanks.
Oh, what am I doing? Fill in real quick. Okay, can you hear us now, Philip? We're not hearing him. Ah.
He's there.
We can't hear you.
I'm trapped in this screen.
We can't hear you. Okay, you'll just have to scroll.
Okay, it's the PDF. All right, thank you. Sure. Park Board, good afternoon. Jeff Best with LK Architecture. I'm here to talk about an update on the Chisholm Trail Parkway through Delana. You have seen this a couple times before, but we are getting quite a bit closer to moving forward, and we want to come in and give you a quick update. As you recall, this project really kind of goes from Sycamore all the way to Exposition, and that's just north of Douglas through Delano. And on this slide, and again, I know there's some new faces, but there's some old faces that remember this project, so I'm going to go through this pretty quick. So for the newbies, just shoot out some questions if you need to. If you recall, we have got some longhorn sculptures that are going to be placed through this corridor in 3 locations. The first one will be at Sycamore, right here. The second will actually be on Seneca. And then the last one is down here at Exposition. So this kind of gives you an overview of the entire corridor. Now I'm going to break it down into kind of the sections. This first section, again, Sycamore is right here on your right, was completed with the apartment project. And I think they're just wrapping up on Oak Street right now. But this is pretty well completed. The bike path, off-street bike path comes through, right through here. And there's some walking paths that make connections up to the apartments. We will tie on right here at that western edge and continue west from there. It'll be off-street to Osage, and from Osage, we're actually going to take this to what's called a cycle track, which is more or less a street for bikes, and it'll be on the north side. There on the south side, we'll have vehicular access and a little bit of parallel parking in this first block. I'll note, as you kind of see, as we go through this corridor, the corridor width changes. It gets narrower, gets wider, gets narrower again. So really kind of aligning everything through here was kind of a little bit of a trick. So, and you'll kind of see some of that as we continue west. This next block between Hanley and Walnut, we had the width to do some angled parking. Again, the cycle track is along the north, and then vehicular access along the south. And if you recall, we did go through some scenarios where we had this as all greenway versus vehicular access, and the neighborhood really came back and wanted some vehicular access through these 2 blocks. These first couple blocks really haven't changed a lot since last time you saw it. This next block, however, has between Walnut and Seneca. We actually thought we had a little more right of way than we actually did. After discovering that we didn't have quite as much, we couldn't actually put additional parking in this stretch like we had. So what we did is actually just had some walks through here with a few benches and swings, and again that cycle track coming through. Again, the premise of this entire project was that bike access through there. Well, some fencing on both sides as well. There was a small playground in this section, as well as the parking lot before, but that went away. Here at Seneca, we're looking at doing a signalized or hawk crossing. We'll get rid of info. And then moving west. This next block is probably the largest piece of ground that we actually have between Seneca and Dodge. We always had a dog park slated for this area, but we had a green space. What we did, after talking with Troy, and we kind of consolidated that dog park to as much ground as we probably really get to maximize the space for it. Ignore the irrigated fescue. This is actually changing over to a rock base here. And then we've got some berming along Quick Trip, and here's kind of that wiggle in that cycle track to kind of bring it down to the south side of the corridor. Then from Dodge over to Exposition, this is where we actually have most of our parking. We wanted to not belabor Brahms and Quick Trip with people that are visiting the dog park and the playground. So providing parking in the section really became necessary. This is also a nice trailhead to get on the bike path or the cycle track and go east. Boy, that info, they're tenacious. So, and then as you come across or westbound on that cycle track, the on-street bike facilities will actually continue on Exposition south, and then it's going to go on Douglas to the west. The playground there at the far end is something we're working with Delana United on. We're going to build as much of this infrastructure as we can for them. We don't have enough money to build it all, and they're aware of that, but they're really participating in trying to do a fully inclusive playground there. So they've got a lot of ideas that they're going to kind of come with, and funding for a lot of this is to be determined, and they know that, but I'm trying to work with them a little bit and trying to help them get some funding for that. And that's it. Questions? Comments?
I know at one point we had seen something that had like a space for food trucks. Is that, or like an outdoor market type of
Yeah.
space?
That parking lot would serve that purpose. We're not providing power to
Okay.
that specifically, but that would also serve that purpose.
And then there was like, was there a space for like vendors or something like that at some point, like a farmer's market?
Yeah,
I know
it's
we
kind of
talked about
this is what really pulling double duty, the parking lot kind of being for the van or the food trucks, if you will. This really wide 15-foot sidewalk is really the idea that the tent vendors may set up on that extra wide walkway through there. That's why it's so big.
Okay. And then what was in the others, and there was another, in the previous, I think it was like phase 2 where you increased the drive. You opened up a drive area for folks to drive back and forth. What was there before? I don't think that was always there, was it? So if you scroll up a little bit.
Where at?
Second slide.
Up, if you scroll up,
Tell me when to stop.
up,
One more.
there. What was there before? Because I don't think that wasn't always there, right? I thought we had more green space.
No, this has been pretty consistently
Okay.
this. These 2 blocks with the drive access and the parking has been pretty consistently that.
What are people parking to access in these spaces?
Well, hopefully they're parking to access some of
Yeah.
the facilities on Douglas that are actually lacking some parking today. And the hope is eventually this may actually help be a catalyst for some redevelopment along the corridor.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
On the dog park,
Mhm.
you said it was going to be a fescue base, and you said it's going to be a rock base?
Yes.
I see, so it's going to be gravel, ostensibly? Sorry if I'm misunderstanding.
Essentially, yeah.
Essentially gravel.
Probably a limestone chat. Like a limestone chat rock.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. And just because I know I'm going to be asked, I mean, do you have any estimate, like, are these fairly accurate representations on the number of trees? And this looks like
Oh,
very many trees that are going to be
Actually,
added here. So-
ironically enough, actually, there's going to be more than this, more than
Wow.
likely, because of the tree policy. This rendering actually I did before the tree policy came to us, and I backed my way into the tree policy. So you could probably expect about 30% more.
That's excellent. Then there's going to be people very happy about that.
Mhm.
So I'm one of the new guys, and I don't remember, I'm trying to picture where this is in the city and what it is right now.
Okay.
It's more or less empty right now, or it's city property that is just bare?
Yeah, it's an old railroad right away.
Railroad,
Uh-huh.
okay.
Yeah, and it's basically, a lot of it's gravel, a lot of it's weed, a lot of it's, I don't know, a lot of different things that aren't great. But it's kind of derelict, if you will. But it's open.
This is just north of Douglas? or-
It is on the north side of Douglas.
So it's in District 6?
Yes.
All of it?
Yes, that would be right.
Okay.
Is the dog park going to be an off-leash dog park?
Yes.
And so is it gonna be a fenced-in area?
Uh-huh. Yep, and then we actually have 2 entrances, one on the east, one on the west. Typically what we like to do is divide those into like a small dog, big dog, but this really is too small to divide. So we're gonna have some commingling of dog sizes. Hopefully everybody get along.
Just as a follow-up from before, has there been any pushback or resistance from the neighborhood groups that you could report? Everybody's pretty copacetic at this
Yeah.
point? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they've been great. We've been to Delano United 4, 5 times. But yeah, we've been there a few. And they've been engaged.
They've been very involved
Mhm.
with this design. In fact, as Mr. Best talked about, they're taking some really interest in the playground, which has been really interesting because usually staff is leading that kind of interest in there.
Mhm.
Once we get a little bit more the specifications, we'll have to go in there and look at it, obviously, because we have to maintain it and operate it. But knowing that they are helping fund it and that they are involved with the design, it takes a little bit away from us, which is really nice, because we have a lot to do.
Yeah, that idea of that inclusive playground really was driven by them.
When's the expected start of phase 1, and when do you expect it to, fully be complete? When can we really start bragging about this thing when it's
July,
underground?
probably. I'm gonna spitball July start.
Okay.
And what's the total project time after it starts in July, or is it
Oh,
complete?
you'd ask me that.
Sorry.
Gosh, is that 12, 10?
I'd say 9 to 12 months probably.
So we're having a party a year from July, is the idea. Okay.
Excellent.
Gonna have a hair cutting party out in the park.
Yeah. Certainly an exciting project that we've seen a few times now, so we appreciate the updates on it, Jeff, and
Very
all
ready
your-
to get built, so.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. No more questions or comments for Jeff. We can move to the inflatables policy. Perfect.
Good afternoon. I'm here to talk about inflatables. This is a topic that Mr. Pompelli brought to staff about a month ago. So for some context that I didn't put in my presentation, inflatables used to be licensed through the city's licensing department, and then that shifted over to being a state priority. So we found it kind of difficult over the past few years to enforce that park users were actually getting licensed inflatable vendors at the parks. And so it was kind of a hectic process for staff in terms of making sure that they were approved vendors. And so with the onset of COVID and being short-staffed, we basically said no inflatables were allowed in parks. So in effort to provide a valuable service to park users who really want to use inflatables, we have developed a draft policy to reinstate the allowance of that. So sort of our goals are to make sure, first and foremost, that everyone is being safe and following safety instructions by the inflatable manufacturers. So our goal is to develop a list of approved vendors for inflatables, making sure that they meet minimum liability insurance coverage, they're licensed with the state, they're inspected, and that just puts the responsibility on them, but we're just checking that in advance rather than one-off for each event. And then we're going to establish a list of approved locations within the parks that inflatables may be used at, making sure that there aren't any trees or other inhibiting structures that are in the way of the inflatables to be safe. We're going to have several locations spread throughout the city to make sure that it's accessible no matter which district you live in. A variety of capacity in terms of tables, shelters, open space nearby. And that'll make it easier for the approved vendors to be aware in advance of what the spaces are, where they can set up, and it'll be easier to enforce as well with a limited number of locations. So this will provide a fiscal gain to the Parks Department by getting an annual certification fee from each vendor, as well as a permit fee per use for user events. So I did provide everyone with a copy of our draft policies, one for vendors and one for users. I'll just kind of summarize it briefly. For users, we're going to establish the process that they have to rent either a park open space or a facility. They have to submit an application to us. They have to acknowledge that only select parks are allowed. They must use a vendor on our list. If it's a public event, like a large-scale event, they'll have to get additional liability insurance. They can't charge people to use the inflatables, and they must provide adult supervision. The vendors will have to acknowledge they're part of the process, that they'll need to provide their licenses, their inspections, register with the city, pay that annual fee, and provide their insurance proof. In both policies, we establish the types of inflatables that are allowed, none of the water sports, combative activities. They must be freestanding and weighted, so they can't dig stakes into the ground and potentially damage the grass or the irrigation systems. They can't drive their vehicles up onto park property. They have to be the ones to set up and make sure that users are following safety instructions. They can only use it during the established rented times and not left overnight. They'll have to provide a generator. And then at the park director's discretion, we can change some of these policies for special events, but this must be done with written approval only. And then there's the standard legal terms as well, talking about liability being pushed to the user and making sure that they're holding the city harmless for any potential damages. So far, we do have the policies drafted that you have in front of you today. Staff has spoken with some vendors as well, and they're supportive of this process. They are losing money actually by not being allowed into parks, so they're definitely excited to get going and being allowed back in parks again. And their practices do currently align with the policy that we have drafted. They do make sure that they're following manufacturer recommendations regarding weather conditions. They typically provide generators, so they're on board. We're currently working on the list of park locations and are working to finalize that over the next month. And then once we have that in place, we can finalize the applications, get the vendor certified, get it up online, and start taking reservations again. So today, we're hoping that you'll just provide your endorsement of our policy as we have it so far, and potentially give some suggestions on if you've heard from constituents about specific parks they might be interested in for this type of thing. And then we'll have all the final documentation ready for you for a final vote in June. And I'll take any questions.
Was there not an initial policy in place for inflatables? I mean,
Sure.
would the city, I guess what I'm asking, would the city be liable for any injuries prior to this going into effect?
If I remember correctly, we did have some type of policy, but the issue was in regards, we were sustaining damage in regards to some of them coming onto the parks. We also had some folks coming in without permits, because you would have to have a permit to come and use it. So that's where the liability
Yep.
was placed on somebody else. But we just wanted to make this a little bit more clear and concise, especially for those that are providing the inflatables.
Okay.
Is there a similar policy that the county has? County park, like,
I'm not sure what the county has. Troy, do you know?
As far as I know, not that I know of, and the only place that they probably do this is at the
Sedgwick
Sedgwick
County
County
Park?
Park. I do know that I've seen inflatables there. I would imagine that they would have to get permission, but I don't know their process.
I could respond a little bit. We have them down at Watson Park, and every year you have to get inspected. We have inflatables there, and so it has to be inspected by, I can't think of the office, but once you get your state approval, then you can provide inflatables. So we were struggling with, once the local city office here at City Hall quit doing that check of licensing and insurance, we were struggling to follow up on that. So by putting this policy in place and having that oversight, then we know the providers are going to be a licensed provider and have been checked out safety-wise by the state of Kansas.
We don't own any inflatables,
Yes, you do, at Watson Park. We own 2 of them.
and they're up all the time, or they can be.
They have to be rented and reserved. Yeah,
And we use them for special events.
especially events.
And inflatables are currently permitted as amusement rides by the Department of Labor. And a few years back, it had to be cities that were inspecting and doing all of that work under state law, and it was kind of like an unfunded regulatory mandate, which is how we kind of ended up in this sort of nebulous place. Now there is actual certification at the state level, and we're kind of piggybacking on that to set up an approved vendor list.
Well, I'm very grateful with you taking the steps to move this forward. Just shows how responsive the staff is. Personally, thank you very much. I wanted to say that you did that. The question I had is just because I know how taxed the staff is in terms of times. You talk about reservations. What do you envision the reservation process will look like? I mean, it sounds like the vendors are one and done. Like if you're a vendor, you're on the list, you're good to go. If somebody was interested in applying for this, is this a web form? Is this a PDF? Will they have to call? What is the process you envision?
So right now, since we're not currently renting out open shelters, there isn't exactly an established process at the moment. However, I know that you can, at one point in time, you were able to rent shelters through RecTrack. So I'm personally envisioning it to go back on RecTrack once we're allowing reservations again. And then it would be following up with the special events team. So you'll get your reservation in place and then submit probably a paper application or via email to the special events team, and they do have a dedicated phone number and email that you can reach them at.
Gotcha.
It'll just be another part of the permit process.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wanting to make certain that your time, like the staff time, is precious in this, and we want to make certain the user experiences as seamless as possible. Do you have a draft sample of a schedule of fees for the permitting?
We don't at this time. We've been kind of talking about it internally, but haven't come to an agreement yet on what the fee structure would be.
Understand.
Chris, one thing we talked about also was that we were going to put out a request for qualification.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, if we put out a request for qualification, we'll state what you have to meet to qualify. And then, once we get them on the list, then we know they're qualified. So we talked about possibly doing a request for qualification.
Can I ask, how does this work with, so like the city, if I was a vendor and I wanted to do business with the city, right? Like, if I wanted to be a supplier to the city of Wichita, I go online and register for that. How is this application gonna work with that? You know what I mean? Like, is that gonna be tacked onto that, or is this gonna be a different application that a potential vendor has to go through?
I
You know what I'm saying?
So you have to be registered to the city to be a vendor. That's a whole different process. So what David was talking about is if Troy Houghton Company wants to provide the service, I'd have to respond to the RFP.
I guess what I'm saying though is like, instead of like duplicating the wheel, like is this an opportunity for us to like plug into an application process that already exists? Like if I wanted to provide vending machines to rec departments or something like that, right? Like recreation centers, I could in theory go and place a bid or whatever.
So that would create a request for proposal with all the standards.
I just don't, I guess I'm just saying like, do we plug into that already? Is this gonna plug into that or is it a different?
I think I know your answer, Elaine. With the city, you have to be registered as a vendor, like Troy said. So that person would have to come in and get themselves set up as a vendor, show their tax ID number, their state license, and all that stuff. Then they're going to be registered as a vendor.
Yeah, but so this is gonna be a separate process from that?
Yeah.
We were planning on sort of tying it together, like so it's sort of a two-step process. We did plan on having them register as a City of Wichita vendor. That way they do meet the city as a broad umbrella's requirements for being a vendor, but then the additional step of providing their inflatable state license to us as a department, because that's not something the city as a whole would require from all of their vendors, so that's just the extra step that we're putting on for safety reasons.
Sure. And then, no, that's great, and that, I think that's awesome that we're tying into that, because I think a lot of folks, I mean, want to work with the city anyways, and so if it's just one process versus like having like, make them go to.
Right, yeah, if they do become eligible for other city projects then as well, then they'll already be registered. Yeah, and then it'll make it easier for them paying us the annual fee, and if we have to pay them for any reason, they'll already be established with the finance department. Yeah.
And then I have another question. So I saw that you said that the vendor has to provide their own generator for the inflatable. But if somebody rents a canopy or something like that, does it already not have power that they plug into? Or how does that, don't those have power already running to them?
So some of the shelters do have them.
Right.
But in regards to being self-contained, we want them to be able to do this on their own. So I don't think these inflatables are going to be right next to the shelter. We don't want them right next to the shelter. So they'll be several feet away. They'll have to be able to have their own generator to be able to power the blower to put it on.
Okay.
And I'll do this already. Because there are many places that don't have power at all.
Yeah. No, I was just making sure that, I mean, this is stop somebody from getting a long 100-foot extension cord and plugging it in. I mean, not to say that it's not, that it is gonna happen, I'm just saying, please speak.
I'll probably will have several other things power to it as well, so.
Yeah, I know, I'm just thinking like for liability, like is that something that's gonna affect us as a city? You know, like at the Parks Department?
Well, we do have it written basically. If a user violates this policy, which is really like a terms and conditions agreement mixed with a policy all in one place for folks. So if someone doesn't use the vendor approved generator or electricity, that is a violation of this agreement, and we can seek damages under this policy for whatever the damage would be. if it was the vendor's fault, we also have it written that we could potentially have them be liable, but a lot of times that's gonna be dependent upon what the agreement between the user and the vendor was when they rented it. But we have it set up so that we are able to recoup any damages that do occur because of use of the inflatables, especially improper, unpermitted use.
Anything else?
I mean, I'd love to see the cost of it, like whatever you guys decide the fee is to be a vendor for that.
Yeah, it's not gonna be very expensive.
Yeah, the vendors that we spoke with were in support of paying that fee so long as it got them access to the parks again, because that was their first concern, was that it was hurting their business by not being allowed into parks.
Are you guys thinking it's like a $50 annual fee, like 20?
Probably a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, it's just it'd be covering normal wear and tear and staff time would be my general thinking on what the schedule would be, just depending on the square footage of the inflatable and how much that'll affect the ground below it or whatnot.
Well, as I mentioned last time, one of the things that we really want to make sure is that people that are using city property or city assets, that they're making a profit off of it. They have to have an agreement with the city, and the city has to make a little bit of money off of it as well. We see this as a revenue generating opportunity for us on several reasons. If it was a $200 annual fee for them, they would just build that into the whole operations throughout the whole year. Okay, $200 I don't think would really put them out, but it would be a little bit of revenue for the city. Not much, but a little bit. But also, we want to make sure that there's an opportunity for them, that we get quality vendors that are there, that are insured, that really care about safety and care about the parks. And so this kind of separates somebody who just has one in their backyard and all of a sudden says, you know what, I want to go throw an inflatable over at the park and I'm going to charge you $50. So we're really looking for quality businesses, and so we don't want to be providing it at $50 for the year, because then anybody can just do it. A little bit more expensive, $200 I think is very reasonable. And we want more parties and more activity into the park, so we don't want to make it so expensive that nobody wants to do this. So I think that's the general area that we've been talking about. I think we shared that with the vendors, and I think we've gotten some pretty good feedback.
How many vendors do you anticipate signing up for something like this?
At least 2, if not more, because there's 2 main ones that really do a lot of the vending throughout the city.
And we would make it an open process. All of these instructions and applications would be available on the park's website. So for any vendors that we haven't proactively reached out to, if they see this information, they can apply, and as long as they meet the qualifications, then they would be eligible to be on our approved list as well.
And like if Troy Hellman Rentals wanted to do this in the fall and sign up to be a vendor, like is there like an open date, or is it just an application open throughout the year?
Just throughout the year. Yeah.
Can you go back to the recommended action? I would move to take staff recommended action and endorse these draft policies.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Finance update. Mr. Hall.
Good afternoon. So hopefully we can get this pretty quick. Maybe. Which button is this, Penny? So making sure I'm doing that right. Just this right. We'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So this is for up year-to-date through April. This is the revenue side. I think we're doing really well. On I think we're on pace to meet our budget goals for the revenue. Also, we are making, as overall, we're making about $226,000 more than what we were this time last year. Also, don't be alarmed too much on this 21% number for recreation. That's for the first quarter. Again, a lot of our the swimming pools and that type of stuff won't pick up until the second quarter, third quarter. So on the expenditure side, everything is looking good. We are spending about $400,000 more than what we were this time last year, but I think the big driver on that is personal services. Breakdown of cost recovery. The 2021 number is their total number is the entire year. We're looking pretty good on the cost recovery of the recreation facilities. Again, the main ones we're seeing is the tennis center is doing really, really well this year. And we won't see, again, pools and summer camps and things we're getting ready to start those up, and so those numbers will go up. So I broke it down for golf, all the way up through April. So for the revenue, as you can see, all of our golf courses are outperforming what we did last year, and last year was a really good year. So matching up pretty good with our percent of budget. Again, we hopefully will see rounds increase in the spring and then the fall. No, I mean the spring and then the summer. We're looking pretty good on the expenditure side also. I don't really have too many concerns. And we have an unencumbered cash balance of $1.3 million after April. So we got pretty good cost recovery with McDonald and Texas Solver both making money in this first quarter. The golfing equipment replacement fund, making about $16,000 in the first 4 months due to green fees. We have had $84,000 worth of expenditures. We've had a fairly large encumbrance. This is, we purchased some golf carts last year, and we haven't actually paid those yet. You'll see the encumbrance go down as we pay that off. Expenditures will go up, encumbrances go down. Part of the encumbrance also includes the irrigation work that we just did over at Texas Solver. No, it was McDonald. The irrigation work that we just did over at McDonald. We are transferring $205,000 from our operating fund to help pay for capital expenditures, roof repairs over at that was Texas Solver. So we began this year with $524,000 in the equipment replacement fund. Right now, we're looking at about $18,000. So this is something that we are watching and continuing. Hopefully, as green fees increase, that revenue will increase, and we'll have more. We'll have a better ending balance as we move forward. So, if you have any questions.
Questions for Brandon? Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Communication update.
So I really didn't have anything in regards to taking up the chain or coming down the chain. I think next month we're gonna do a social media presentation again, give you guys an update on the social media. But other than that, we don't have anything else to report.
Okay. So we will wait for next month to address the social media. Reggie is not here with us today. Anybody in his with, do you have an update on programming or anything?
So we're getting ready for summer. A lot of things are moving All of our summer camps are doing really well. I think SOD is full, and I think we only have a few vacancies for summer camp. We'll get those filled, I'm pretty sure, by summertime. So this year, we're not using the COVID restrictions, so we're actually able to have more spaces in each one of our summer camps. Programming, we've been pushing out swim lessons, and I think nobody's really signed up for them until summertime, and I'm thinking those are going to fill up. It's not quite on their mind because it's not quite warm enough this week, so we might start getting some folks actually not signing up for summer swim lessons. Other than that, we got all of our regular programming. We had a great turnout with Open Street Snowmark. I think all you guys were there, if I remember seeing you guys all there. So at least you guys, I saw somebody that looked like you guys. And things are going really, really smoothly as we start moving out of this COVID phase. We're already starting to plan to get things ready for fall programming. So.
Excellent. Any questions on recreation update? Go to the golf update. Have a couple of items to.
Yep. So golf update, we had a really productive golf advisory committee meeting last week on Friday, or last week on Thursday? Last week on Thursday. And I brought the items in regards to increasing some of the fees. And we looked at particular golf carts. We looked at fees across the area at other golf courses, and we came to the conclusion that we were a little bit lower than everybody else, and so it's time to increase the fee for the golf carts. And we wanted those golf cart fees to go directly to a replacement fund. So similar to what we had seen in regards to the equipment replacement fund, we would want to have that golf cart replacement fund. So every 2 years, I can replace about a quarter of the fleet, and we can keep that going on continuously making those upgrades to the worst golf carts that are rated the worst. So we did an analysis in regards to leasing versus purchasing, and with this process, knowing that we can actually sell back a lot of these golf carts for a pretty good fee, it makes a lot of sense for us, especially since we're not paying tax, to go ahead and purchase the carts, and then when they're worn out, we want to sell them, they get sold, they get refurbished, or they get to be used for parts somewhere else. So it's working out pretty well. So that's the direction that we're looking to go. Let's see, so that was one of the items, and then the other item is in regards to the membership fees. And we had looked at how much those membership fees generate revenue into the golf system and how many people actually use them, and the value of those passes, or memberships I should say. And so they're very much underpriced, and we are actually losing a lot of money. Let me take that back. We're not capitalizing on the opportunity as much as we could or should. So we made a proposal of a, if I remember right, 50% increase across the board, and on both items, the golf carts and the increase of the fees, the golf advisory committee unanimously supported it. And so we're going to bring it forward to next month's meeting.
One thing I'll add to that is, like, we're not just raising fees just for the heck of it. You know, with today's day and age, you know, we have to be able to provide a competitive financial package to all of our workers, and for that to happen, we determined that raising the already super low, you know, valuable memberships, 15%, we would be able to get on par, no pun intended, with, you know, it makes us more competitive to get the right people in place. So we're not doing it just for the heck of it, or trying to capitalize on, make our bottom line look better, but that's a big deal. We need the right people in the right places. So that was kind of the big push there.
The past 2 years, we've worked really hard to get back into the black, and we want to stay in the black. but we also need to be able to pay our employees a competitive wage. Expenses are gonna be going up as well in regards to fertilizer and seed and everything else that we use. So it's really important to come up with a plan to continue increasing our revenues and putting that money back into the golf courses. And that's the old adage is the revenues that we're making go back into the golf courses so we can purchase equipment, make improvements to the golf course, and make sure that we're paying competitive wages to make sure we have enough staff.
Questions on that?
I had an alert that went off just because I made a note that said in 60 days we'll estimate we have a golf director. Now I was just wondering how far are we from getting the ball in the hole? No pun intended.
That was our other topic of discussion on Thursday.
But that was my next item. So Friday is our first round of interviews, and Friday the 13th, so it'll be a very lucky day for some of these candidates. We just love all the human requirements that we can have. So there's 6 candidates that will be interviewing. We have a rather large panel, and so we actually split it in 2. So there's panel A and panel B. Panel A is consisting of golfers and stakeholders. Panel B is more staff. We'll have a council member on each one of those panels. So we have council members that are actually going to be helping us through this process. So 2 40-minute interviews for these candidates. And the first round is going to be on Zoom or Teams. And from that, we'll get either 2 or 3 finalists, and we'll bring them back on the 27th. So those will be in person, so we'll have the same panelists as well. And we'll do the same thing with panel A and panel B. And what happens is they will interview with one, and they switch with another one. So I believe we can be a little bit more efficient with our time. So that's the plan. Hopefully by the 27th, by the end of the day, we'll have a good idea of who the finalist is going to be. And the following week, it's on Friday, so the following week we'll finalize that and hopefully be able to make an offer. They'll have to give probably their 2 weeks notice, or maybe sometimes it's a little bit longer. So we're really anticipating that this is going to be filled sometime mid to end of June. Very thorough process. So that's about all I have for golf, other than some of the other positions we've been filling those as well. Very successful with the greenskeeper, a couple assistant greenskeeper, the assistant golf pro has been filled, the administrative position has been filled, so things are coming along really nicely.
Park maintenance and forestry.
Okay, so up there we have our April production numbers there, inspections, about 1,200 of them. Prunings, you can see the numbers quite a bit down because we concentrated on tree removal, stump grinding, and at the bottom, planting trees. We finished up planting all the trees, so those are our production numbers there for April. Meetings, trainings, we postponed due to planning activity, inspections of contract tree removal. So at Auburn Hills and Sims, we completed the tree removal at those 2 golf courses. McDonald's about 75% complete, Texas about 85% complete. So here, I would think in the next month or so, we should have all that taken care of.
David, if I could jump in there, those are trees that are dead trees, very much dead, that been on the list to be removed for several years. So, and that was actually on golf courses, but we actually used general fund dollars to remove those.
We were trying hard to get the golf courses in good shape, just depending on which way the whole golf system went. So we wanted to have the golf courses in good shape, and we concentrated on them. And then, of course, storm and freezing weather has affected progress on planning. And then we had a good amount of wind with the Andover tornado on the east side of town. So we've been concentrating the last couple weeks, week and a half, on just picking up dead limbs and so forth, which takes us away from all the other important work that needs to be done. Arbor Day was the last Friday in April, and Carol Graham was our honoree. Every year we pick somebody to honor, and Carol, she has given over 30, 40 years of volunteer service with Project Beauty, and there's several ladies that belong to that group. So Carol is a big advocate for planting trees, and so we honored her and we planted some trees. Larry, can you say that word for me? Yeah, oaks. And then we gave her a plaque, and so that was a nice deal. We did it down at Peachtree Park, and I hate to say this, but that looks like a city employee leaning on a shovel, you know. Everybody looking in the hole. Yeah, I should have hit that shovel behind my back or something. But so there's Carol with some kids. We had some kids down there that day helping us plant trees, and we had a nice little crowd. And it was Peachtree Park is kind of a cool little park. Doesn't have a lot of parking there, but it was a nice day. You can see May scheduled activities, all the same things. We are going to get started on Swanson's Park out there because we're moving forward with putting in the pedestrian bridge. And so we'll have to cut that path into Swanson's Park. So we'll be working on that. Gary works with Mr. Houtman on the tree policy. So he's been helping out with that kind of stuff. And you can see Park Villa there. We finally got the pond sealed and we got water in it after almost a year. We finally found a vendor last fall that could do the work because nobody was bidding on it. So it looks very nice. They got it all painted up, filled with water and so forth. So it kind of makes Park Villa look whole again. It was missing. April accomplishments: completed plumbing and repairs, sealing of the Park Villa Pond, constructed the new basketball courts at Boston, College Hill, and Harvest, which Tim and Larry have worked hard at helping us get done. We completed the construction on the ADA sidewalk over in Veterans Memorial Park, which Mr. Houtman, that's that picture right there. Mr. Houtman has asked us to get that in for quite some time, and we finally got it done. We installed 5 no more vehicle signs, or no motor vehicle signs down at the single track down there by the South Arkansas River Greenway, which is a new off-road bicycling track for us. We took out the old basketball court at Boston Park because we kind of moved it into a new location. We installed the fabric tops back out at the Murphin Dog Park. Did a memorial park bench there at College Hill Park. So the construction crew stays pretty darn busy doing all kinds of different things. We have a whole list of activities, and I don't know if I need to go down and read through all those for you, but you can see the things that we were trying to work on over at Lynette Woodard, the basketball courts. We've got some new basketball goals in over at Lynette Woodard, but we have to figure out what to do with those portables. We've been helping with the disc golf, putting baskets in. Our Keeper of the Plain statue there out at Harrison Dog Park got damaged, so we've got to remove it and take it and get repaired and so forth. So these guys stay pretty busy doing a lot of different things. A little bit May scheduled activities. That top picture there is of A. Price Woodard Park. We've got that project done. It was to strip out all that stuff was in the center there. We painted all the rails. We fixed all the dangerous areas and so forth. So A. Price Woodard Park will look much better for the, what is it, the Riverfest, but it's the 50th 50th anniversary of the River Festival. So the goal was to make 8 Price Woodard Park look better. Continue monitoring contract work and rehab of the railing there. Rehab the post rock fence out in Chisholm Creek Park. We need to start working on that. If you guys been out there, that split rail looking thing is all torn apart and it's separated and pulled apart, so we need to fix that. We're going to remove and replace the dugouts at McAdams Baseball Diamond, continue with playground and safety inspections, respond to graffiti and vandalism reports. And then here's another picture of a camp, one of the homeless camps that has gone undetected and so forth. So again, just another big pile of stuff there. A couple other pictures of that. So this is the park maintenance crew. Contractor grounds maintenance is in full swing. We've been mowing and cleaning up and a lot of things. One thing I would like to mention, in the budget retreat that's coming up here May 24th, one of the items that we're supposed to talk about is how can we do more trash pickup? And 2 or 3 of the city council members have asked about more trash removal. One of the things that we're going to submit that we're talking about is the fact that we don't have trash removal in our parks from the end of October to the 1st of March because there's not enough funds allocated for it. So we're asking for that. We're bringing that subject up. We're asking for more money to do this contracted trash removal. And we also we've got a program option for another packer truck and the staff to run the packer truck. So it's a pretty, it's almost $1 million worth of requests, whether it all will get funded or not, but at least we're asking the questions. We're presenting the idea and we're saying, hey, this issue's out in our parks and so forth. And we have offered up 4 different options of how we could improve trash removal in our parks and other bicycle, bike paths, boulevards and that kind of stuff. So our noxious weeds guys, the wind and the rain that we've had lately just hasn't allowed us to do much spraying. So we've just been assisting where we can. We've got the homeless trash cleanups and illegal dumping continuing as large amounts of resources. We've worked hard with several volunteer groups, with Earth Day, we had lots of different groups wanting to do projects, and I bet we had over 1,000 people easy that got out in the parks and helped us pick up trash. This last Saturday, they had the River Roundup, and I'm sure they picked up a ton of trash with that. So the month of April, we get a lot of volunteers, and they help us clean up our park. So over there at 8 Price Woodard Park, we're also doing some resodding. The sand had built up so much that the water wouldn't drain back into the river and so forth. So we've done some resodding over there and lowered some stuff. I think I already talked about that last month. And Memorial Day is coming up, so we're going to go into Highland Park and try to fill up some of the rutting that's so bad on the roads, the 2-track roads that go through Highland Park. Public Works is going to help us smooth that out with their little alley grader. So we've got some stuff going on there. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to help answer them.
Any questions for David? See none? Thank you. A lot of good stuff going on. Parks Foundation.
So I would like to say very much thank you to the Parks Foundation for a large donation, as well as a private donor. The private donor provided $100,000. The Parks Foundation provided about $60,000 for a brand new footbridge that's going over in Swanson Park, which David talked a little bit about. We are really getting this issue in regards to a lot of our projects. We always come up with an estimate, and we work with engineers and other folks in the industry to get an estimate of what we expected. So that's kind of where we come up with a base budget for that. and we put that to the CIP or some other type of funding project. As of lately, our estimates are low, believe it or not, sometimes by 20, 30, 50%. This one was 100% low. So we had looked at rough numbers, about $250,000 to do this project, and it ended up being over $500,000. So with some extra funding that we had for our facilities funding, the funding that we had put aside for this, the $100,000 donation and the 60 from an individual anonymous donor, $60,000 from the Park Foundation, we finally met the budget that we needed to sign the contract and move forward with Don Winger to install this bridge. Councilmember Mulal asked a little bit about the condition of the bridge, and so at the council meeting, we did a PowerPoint. We found some really interesting pictures that showed the walking bridge, which is a wooden bridge. It's horrible. It's just being held up by who knows what. It's a wooden bridge that all the wood has been deteriorated, it's falling apart. So it's a safety issue, it's also an aesthetic issue as well. So I'm glad that we were able to get that project. But in general, I wanted to share that a lot of these projects we're going to see are going to be way underfunded, and we have to find creative ways to go back and fund them. So kudos to David and to the team to put together some ways to find funding for this project. And it's going to be something that Tim and Larry are going to be having to deal with in the future as well. So, but a private donor stepped up $100,000. $100,000. That didn't happen every day. So we're really excited about that. A couple other updates. David talked a little about the homeless shelter camps, and that last one that he took some pictures of, if I remember right, was over 5 tons worth of trash that was removed, and that cost us roughly about $8,000, somewhere around there. So it's not cheap when we have to go out there and remove all the trash that has been there. And they also have to be very careful because there's a lot of things that could be very dangerous within that trash as well. So that's always a tough thing to deal with. The river trash roundup, as David talked about, we actually lowered the river so that they have better access. And I got an email today that there were some scooters that they pulled out from the river, some bicycles that they pulled out from the river, definitely some shopping carts that they pulled out from the river, amongst all the other trash. But it was great to find volunteers to do that. David's absolutely right. The month of April and May, we get a lot of volunteers to help us with a lot of different things. So that's always a great thing as well. Let's see, Nomar, we completed the shelter over at Nomar. And I don't know if you guys get a chance to look at it. It's just beautiful. The colors match the building. So our folks that worked on that, it was LK that was that did the design for it, and these guys did the work on it, so they did a great job on that as well. A couple other things, a quick update on the tree policy. We've been still taking this out for getting more feedback. We've had a couple other Facebook Lives. We went to a couple of neighborhood meetings. We did a presentation via video to all the dabs. After I leave this, I'm going to be going to Bike and Ped Board 5 o'clock to do a presentation for them. We had a workshop with council, and we answered a lot of questions. So a lot of things are moving forward. We did get some really great suggestions as we move forward with this. And I think next month I'll be able to provide an update on the policy to you guys next month. So, and hopefully maybe we can take this to council in June or maybe July. It was great to hear from Mr. Best that even though the policy is not enacted yet, the project that he was working on is a city project. You guys heard that he's going to be adding actually 30% more trees, which is pretty exciting. So that tells me that the policy is going to have a positive impact as we move forward with our city projects. Last thing I'm going to provide information on that I'm really excited about is last year we were a gold medal finalist through the National Parks and Rec Association. We did not win. But this year, we're finalists again. So I'm really excited that we're finalists. We're going to be competing against the city of Plano in Texas, Henderson, Nevada, and Des Moines, and Iowa. Two particular cities, Plano as well as Henderson, are considered the cream of the crop in our industry. They are definitely some of the best cities that provide parks and recreation services, but when anybody references policies, anybody references operations, those two cities are often cited quite a bit. And to be in the same name of those cities is pretty exciting for me. And so we'll see if we become the gold medal winner this year at the conference. It's in end of September, so we'll find out then. Until then, we have a video that we have to produce in the next month so we can finalize our application for gold medal. So it's pretty cool, not just to get a finalist one year, but the year after as well. Kind of shows that we really are doing a lot of great things.
Very cool.
Quick question before we, just really quick. First of all, excellent work on open streets. Wanted to mention that just because it was such a smash success. Saw you there. It was just fantastic. So, but the other piece beyond that is I was asked by a resident, somebody had sent me a message. Has there been a development on the ICE Center as far as tenant issues for the, just really quick, I don't know if there's an answer.
So an update in regards to the ICE Center. Genesis, we had some discussions about them contracting to continue operating on the second floor of the fitness center area. As of Friday of last week, they're gone. So we made several different offers to them. They did not want to continue any longer, so they are definitely gone. So my next job is to see if we can find something to do with that space on the second floor. It's very conducive for a fitness center. So we'll be talking to some of the local gyms, whether it's Planet Fitness or some of the other ones. We might actually do an RFP. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do yet. So that is one option. We're also looking for some other creative ideas to do on the second floor. Maybe it becomes a music theater. Maybe it becomes some other type of programming activity. So it doesn't have to be a fitness center. But if you guys have any ideas of what you want to do with the second floor on Genesis, let me know. And hopefully we'll be taking down the Genesis logo on our billboard sometime this week.
Sounds like it's a boss ownership. I have some more capital to deploy. Fitness experience.
I'll hit you up offline. I got a separate question about that, but I will hit you over email.
Okay.
Thank you.
Quick president's update. I think I mentioned that I played in the golf marathon last month. Our goal was to raise $25,000 to cover the expenses of junior golf fees. We raised over $45,000. So thanks for everybody's support and helping spread the word. It was fun. Me and 4 of my friends, brave souls, and we played 100 holes. There was somebody that played 154 holes. Just a long day, 12 hours out there, about 2 hours around. So stopped for lunch, 15 minutes, but I was sore the next day, that's for sure. Yeah.
I do have one other thing.
Yep. Yeah.
So one of the things we've been working on, God, since I've been here, is trying to find ways to activate the river even more than what we're doing. So throughout the years, we've been doing kayaking, we've been doing paddleboarding, we do our own classes. We've actually contracted with some private vendors to actually provide the services. One of the things we wanted to do was come up with some kind of larger boat so people can actually go up and down the river, and maybe like a pontoon boat or something like that. So we've had a couple of folks entertain the idea. It never really worked out. David has come up with a vendor that I think they're going to start this summer. Yep. They're going to be using a pontoon boat, and they're going to be providing tours up and down the river on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And they might do something really special, maybe include a dinner or some snacks. They'll be talking a lot about the history of the river and the history of Wichita. They'll make special trips to watch the fire pots go off. So we're really excited about that. It's a small operation. It's not going to be that big, but we're going to do what we can to support them. And we're just really excited that somebody's finally picked up the idea to try to do this. And so this entrepreneur, they're coming up with an idea that we're going to use some of our services, some of our assets to provide this service. And for us, we're excited because it provides more activity on the river. We're supporting economic development, be it, it's probably not going to be millions of dollars like other people brag about, but maybe it's going to be thousands of dollars, which is always great. And then there's going to be another activity for people to do here in Wichita and enjoy and spend time on the river. So then there's, what I get excited about is Parks and Recreation does all kinds of things, and this is just part of it, is helping create business, maybe at a very small scale, but we're pretty excited about it. So I wanted to share that, and so I'm expecting everybody from the park board to pay for a tour sometime this summer on the river.
We'll have it on.
Special meeting out there. Yeah.
It sounds like a party barge. I'm not quite, I don't know if we're quite there. But
Do they have a
sure
license?
His boat only holds 6 people, so it won't be too big of a party, but at least it's a start.
Yeah.
It's a start.
Very cool. Do we know where they're gonna pick us up and drop us off?
Yeah, he'll probably work underneath the Douglas Street Bridge right there. Is where he'll pick up, and then he'll go up to he'll go down almost to the Lincoln, turn around and come back in.
That's cool.
Hopefully about 30, well, if you watch the firing of the pods, you could be on a longer ride than maybe some of midday ride or whatever. But he's a retired teacher that has just always wanted to do this. He went and got his captain's level apprenticeship, and built him a boat, built all the railing and everything, got it ADA accessible.
That's cool.
The whole bit.
Very cool.
That's
Excited to see it.
boat. Yeah.
When, are we taking reservations, or when does this
No,
start?
I think actually he got on the river this Sunday, and when I don't know if the river come up soon enough after dropping it for the trash cleanup, but he was shooting for Sunday. I'll have to call him and ask. His name is Sherman Paget. He's going to be a retired teacher, administrative person.
Very cool.
Great job.
Anything else? Yes. Okay. And a couple good notes there. If there's nothing that we need to talk about or put on the agenda for next month, we can adjourn.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Dave.